another treat, buddy? He's still not, I haven't fully won him over, but he's a lot more relaxed than he was before. So basically, this is Rocco, and this is his roadmap to success. Now, he is, like I said, pretty much an insecure dog. Now, he was actually adopted, from what I understand, at a couple of weeks old. He was taken away from his mother, and then he didn't last in that house, and so this family adopted him, and he was probably about 7 weeks old when he got him. You should never take a puppy away from their mother until they're minimum of 8 weeks old. They just, a lot of this insecurity is probably a result of that. Now, other things, and I talked about this in the video above, I think the guardians had done some things unintentionally that confused the dog into thinking that he was, or into rewarding a lot of the behaviors that we had. So like pecking him up when he is upset, or petting him when he is upset. Anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're reinforcing and enhancing. And each time you do it, it might make him only just maybe a quarter of a percentage point more, but over and over and over again, when we repeat these things, they really add up. And so in his mind, I think he thinks he's in charge of everyone. His humans don't listen to him, which stresses him out. And so he is becoming more reactive because he thinks he has to be proactive in terms of protecting his humans because they can't take care of themselves. And so in order to flip what I call the leader-follower dynamic, we went over a bunch of ways that the humans can start acting like a leader, at least as far as the dog is concerned. So dogs learn through consistency, repetition, and good timing. You have a window of 3 seconds to correct or reward your dog for them to make the connection. But even in that 3-second window, that's not enough. You have to get enough repetitions. And every dog's number of repetitions is different. So basically, the more that we pet with a purpose, the more he's going to be comfortable sitting on command. You can see now he's showing his teeth a little bit. That's not aggression, that's a warning. He's saying I'm not comfortable. So I didn't move my hand away, but I stopped moving my hand towards him because that's what he asked me to do. And you saw he came over and he licked me. Now he grumbled, and that's more of a protest. This is BS because I'm using the leash to block him from running away. But I'm not forcing him to lay down. I'm not forcing him to do anything. I just wanted him to practice being with me, which is something else I talked about in the video above. So some of the rules that we went over, enforcing rules consistency can help the dog start to see the humans acting in the leader role. So some of the rules we suggested, number one would be the furniture. For dogs, the higher they sit, the more rank or status they have. So if we let him sit at the same height as us, that's one of the ways we confuse him into thinking we're peers, which we're not. So basically, I would suggest no furniture for at least 30 days or as long as these problems are still going on. And at that point, furniture only with an invitation and only for good behavior. So if he's on the furniture and he starts barking, he has to get up and move away. Or if we invited him up and he gets down to get a drink of water, when he comes back, he'd need another invitation to get up. Now, the two ways we can ask him to get off the couch, the one I prefer not to do is just to hook him by his collar or push him by his butt to the edge so he feels like he's teeter-tottering. And then he'll jump down on his own. When he does, we reach over and pet him and say, off. My preferred way is to take a treat, and this is kind of why I talked a little bit about directional commands, is tossing a treat off the couch. When he comes and licks it up off the ground, I would say the word off. And after we do that enough, then off means get off the couch. And instead of just getting a demotion, he gets a reward. It's the only time I don't want to do that is if the dog just immediately jumps back on the couch to repeat the process and get another treat. If that's the case, then I kind of I flash my hand in front and block him while he's midair so he can't get on the couch. But don't stand there like holding your hands out blocking. You have to, like I mentioned off camera, we want to assume the dog is going to do the right thing and trust that he's going to do the right thing. If we hold our hand out there, we're assuming he's going to do the wrong thing. And it, in some words, break our trust, but it tells him that we don't trust him. And we can't count on it. He doesn't think we think he can count on him. Let me see. So furniture would be one thing. Another rule would be not being allowed within 7 feet of any human who is eating. We're going to use the escalating consequences to move him away. And we can practice those things. We talked a lot about practice during this session. A lot of us don't actually help our dog practice the behavior we want them to demonstrate. So maybe if we're going to have a dinner and we're going to eat our dinner on the ottoman here, maybe before we eat dinner, we actually get a piece of roast beef. We microwave it for about 30 seconds so it's got a kind of a strong aroma, and then we take it over and we sit down and we start cutting it up with a fork and knife on a plate. Now, we're not actually going to eat the roast beef, but it looks like we are and it smells like we are. When we're eating, we're actually focused on eating, and when a dog comes up towards us, we want to just kind of quickly move them away. Well, just like a dress rehearsal. So we microwave a little roast beef, that's awesome. And then after we cut it up into little pieces and maybe take a bite or two. And after a while, and then every time the dog approaches the 7-foot boundary, we hiss before he breaks the boundary. If he breaks it, then we use the escalating consequences to stand up or march towards him and move him away. And then once he gets to the point where he sits or lies down outside that 7-foot boundary, then we're ready to put the roast beef plate away, and then we practice with our real meal. Now we just did a dry run. He understands what's expected from him, and then it's easier for him to do that because we just showed him what we wanted him to do. And each time we practice this, it makes it easier for him to behave this and follow this rule on his own in the future. Eventually, he won't have to do the dry run. Another rule would be he's not allowed to be on the steps off the steps or on the main level of the kitchen when we're eating at the dinner table up there, or if anybody's cooking anything in the kitchen. He has to sit before we let him in or out of the door. If I tell him to sit at the door and he doesn't sit, then we walk away from the door, we wait 1 minute, and then go back to the door and again tell him assertively again to sit. If he doesn't this time, we walk away for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. Keep on doubling the length of time until he sits. When you tell him to, but only we give him about 2 or 3 seconds to comply. And as soon as he sits, then we open that door with like his remote control in his butt. Start doing it first when he's inside, then do it when he's outside too, so both directions. Sitting is a more subordinate position. This is why we went over petting with a purpose and passive training. The more we ask our dog to sit, the more comfortable they are with that posture, and also the more practice they are. So when a guest comes over and we ask him to sit, or if he's worked up or he's on a walk or something like that, and we ask him to sit, it's easier for him to do so. Let me see what else. We practice the door claiming exercise. I don't have a video for that for this family, but if you guys have problems with that, please message me and I can send you a link to. I've done it with so many other people, and you can watch people doing it. Just make sure when you're doing it with big, bold, sudden steps. One of the guardians had a tendency to slow down and stop before she got to the dog. Also, getting a tennis racket, like I described, might help. Just because he's so small, we can't reach all the way down to the ground with our arm unless we bend over. So a tennis racket just extends the reach of your arm. You shouldn't be touching him with a tennis racket, just using it to move him away. But teaching him to stay 10 or 15 feet away from the door, whatever that distance was, helps him see you guys acting like the leader. Remember, make sure you practice this preferably with neighbors. So they come over, they knock, eventually they come inside and they sit just for a minute and then they leave. That way we take away the baggage of the person in the house, which he gets really worked up. The other thing I'd like the guardians to also put an emphasis for the next 2 weeks on having people come over. And again, it should be people who are going to listen, like we talked about in the video above. But we need to help him practice how to behave when guests arrive. And the more we use that positive reinforcement, dropping the treats, eventually holding the treat in the side of our hand, the more he's going to look forward to people coming over. That, in conjunction with the humans taking over the leadership roles by consistently enforcing rules and boundaries and rewarding desired actions and behaviors through passive training and petting with a purpose, the more that he's going to feel like a follower and that not that he's responsible for all the humans. But right now, I think he thinks he's responsible for the humans, and the humans don't listen to him, so he's stressed out even more, and he's getting more reactive to try to ward off people because he doesn't think his humans can handle the situation. Warning signs. We talked about warning signs to look out for. So the ears, he showed his ears, he has kind of floppy ears. So if the inside of his ear, if he's pushing it forward so you can face it, that's very subordinate, very respectful, almost apologetic. If the ears go back, a lot of times that's what they do when they're going to bite or nip or fight. And so if you see his ears go way back in a situation where he might show some of these other signs I'm going to go over here in a second, that's where we want to redirect him or move him away from the area. When you correct him or you hiss at him or you disagree, you should see his ears flip back, though, rotate back, because that's his way of saying, oh, I'm sorry. Now, the warning signs we want to look out for, the very first one is almost always a stare. Now, he was doing both stares with me. There's a stare like this, and then a stare like this. I'm staring at the camera, I'm just not looking directly at the camera. So if you see him staring at a human, that's a warning, hey, I don't like what you're doing. Another thing that they do often is they lick their lips when they're stressed out. So if you see him starting to lick his lips, then that could be a sign of stress. Baring the teeth, like I talked about in the other video, isn't necessarily aggression, but it is a warning sign. He's showing you what you're going to get if you continue. So we want to make sure that we are not doing anything. If he's licking his lips a lot, we want to look at the situation, what's going on, and then see if maybe that's something we need to help train him how to behave during that particular activity or behavior. Let me see, freezing in place is a big warning. Going in slow motion, also another warning. He has got a lot of spirit, I will give him that. Let me see, what else? Yawning, turning the head to the side is a calming signal. It can mean, hey man, I'm stressed out of what you're doing, or what you're doing is stressing me out. This, what almost looks like the dog is pointing, could be pointing. It's also a way of saying please, but if the dog's stressed out, this could be a calming signal as well. scratching the ground and sniffing the ground also can be a calming signal. So if you see him doing those things, we want to make sure that he is comfortable, or that he has the ability to move away. He has a kennel, and he likes using the kennel, but he doesn't like going to the kennel when his guardians leave. So what I always try to do is create what we call a CER, conditioned emotional response. So what I would do is recreate all the steps that we do when we're leaving the house at times when we don't plan to leave the house. So sit down, put on your shoes. I know this is cumbersome, but you only have to do it for about a week or two. So practice a couple times a day. Put your shoes on, grab your keys, your wallet, your purse, all the rest of that stuff, and walk over to where the kennel is, toss a treat in the kennel. When he goes in the kennel, say the word for kennel when it touches his lips, and then come back in, take your jackets off, and sit down and watch TV. So what we're doing is, right now, he sees every time that they put their jackets on, the shoes and all this, that means they're about to leave me, and I'm put in the kennel. I don't like being in the kennel. Well, if we practice that over and over again at times where we're not leaving him, and there's a positive reinforcer at the end of it, then he eventually starts to look forward to that. It's been a long day for him. Now, I haven't petted him the whole time I've been here. I've been here almost 4 hours. I'm tempted to want to reach over and pet him now. I don't think he would want me to do that. I'm trying to be respectful of what he wants. So when you have guests come over, make sure you let him know, look, he's nervous and anxious, and he needs you to give him space. So please don't look at him. Direct eye contact is a trigger for him. But we want him to initiate the contact. We want him to feel empowered to come to us. We also want him to feel empowered to move away. Now, in the video above, I talk a little bit about stepping on a leash so he can't move away from something he's barking or reacting to. That's specific to this isolated incident. The rest of the time, we want a dog to feel empowered to be able to run away, because otherwise we're causing them, if I can't run away, I have a fight or flight response. If I can't run away, I'm just going to attack, and we don't want him to do that. Now, passive training, right now, if I could pet him, right now I'd be petting him. Oh, look at that. When he sat down right there, I'd pet him and say the word sit. When he comes to me, I'd pet him and say come. When he lays down, I'd pet him and say crash, or whatever the word is for crash. The more that we pet him for pay attention to desired behaviors, the more he is going to engage in those desired behaviors. Every time he goes to his dog bed, say bed, or I call mine Venice, but come up with a funny name for that. And we'd also like the new commands that the guardians are going to come up with. We'd like to come up with funny commands for those. You can say play dead, but you might say bang bang, or come up with something that's fun. Maybe again have the kids nominate or come up with suggestions for a word for a command, and then mom and dad make the final decision. I'd like mom and dad, and potentially Ella, to start taking turns on Sunday picking a dog trick from YouTube. It can be a trick or a command. Once you've picked the command, then let's say dad's doing it this week, dad teaches the dog how to do it. After he's taught the dog how to do it, he teaches everybody the command word and how to do it. Then all week long we practice that one. Next Sunday, mom takes over, and mom teaches a new trick. And then next week we practice that. And then maybe Ella teaches the next trick. And so if each one of us teach 4 new tricks, at the end of 3 months, the dog has now 12 new commands, and that's going to help him feel a lot more confident with himself. He just only knows like 2 or 3 commands right now. One of them should be stay. If you guys need help on the stay, let me know, and I can show you a video that teaches you how to properly ask the dog to stay. Right now the guardians, no, let's not lick my scab. I don't want to get infected. But the guardians kind of said stay when they would like go to places, or maybe be stuck in a car. I don't think he fully has the stay. And that's a real powerful and very effective thing to be able to teach your dog to do. Let me see, what else? What else did I forget? Use the escalating consequences to disagree. If you forget what those are, let me know what they are, and I can show you how to do it. When you are teaching the tricks and exercises, message me when you start doing that, because I can send you on a focus exercise, which teaches the dog to stop what they're doing and look up at the human that gives them the command. It's a very powerful way to redirect the dog's attention, and so a lot of times you can get them out of trouble before they get into trouble. Make sure that you get in the habit of developing that choreography we talked about. Don't walk around the dog, walk through the dog if it's standing in your way. So the dog learns when a human comes, my job is to move away. I would also teach him to go to his kennel on command. And we talked about directional commands. So to do that, now directional commands is maybe if I want him to leave the room, I would go to the edge of the room, have a treat, toss it out of the room, and as soon as he goes out of the room, I might say out. Do this in all sorts of different rooms throughout the house. So that way, if you tell him out, he doesn't look at it as being ostracized. He looks at it, if I leave the room, I'm going to get a treat. I would also do that for the yard. Right now, the guardian has been saying outside for potty, as well as to go outside. Well, the dog doesn't know exactly what that means. So I suggest they come up with a new command word. Every time he pees or poops near them, they say the word business or whatever the new word is. And then as soon as he gets done doing it, then we give him another treat, and we say business again. So the first one links the act to the action to the command. The second one links the reward to the command word. And the more we repeat these things, the easier it gets. Remember to say the word paycheck if we spot someone petting the dog when he's standing up or he hasn't earned it. Remember, we're going to say vocabulary if we are saying come here when the command word is actually come. We're going to say reward if I'm sitting here and somebody in the family sees that he just sat down, they're going to say reward. Then I would reach over and I would pet him under his chin. Right now he doesn't want me to, which is why I'm not. But make sure you pet under the chin. So reward just means the dog just did something we want and you missed it. So if the dog is standing there, I would assume he came and pet him and say come. If he lays down right there, I pet him and say crash. If he sits down, pet him and say sit. Even though he knows these things, the more you reward and reinforce this, the more he's going to be inclined to want to do those things. Most people spend all their time and effort correcting the dog for the wrong thing, as opposed to rewarding them for the right thing. And we have kids in the house, and so getting the kids, doing the same thing we do for the kids is going to help them feel comfortable. Now, for the kids, we went over ways for the kids to get chocolate. So for passive training and petting with a purpose, I know it's tough being a little puppy. So what I would do is every time that the kids pet with a purpose or do passive training or make the dog sit at the door, they go and tell mom and dad. Mom and dad gets an M&M and goes and puts it in the jar for that child. And then each day at dinner, the child goes and grabs it, dumps it on their plate, and they count up who had the most M&Ms. Maybe whoever had the most gets to sleep with him. Right now, he should be sleeping in the kennel. But eventually sleeps with him or gets a special dessert or special reward against a special TV show privileges or whatever it is. Now we have the kids giving an incentive. And keep track of it. You have a chart over there. So do a little chart for that. Each day, write down who had the most. And then maybe you do at the end of the month, somebody gets a special sleepover or whatever the reward is. We get the kids to start doing the things we want them to do with the dog. And the more that happens, the dog is going to look at the kids in a more respectful light. And the kids are going to have more authority for the dog because they tell him to sit and then the dog gets a reward. They tell him to come and he gets a reward. Also, we talked a little bit about exercise. If we're going to have guests come over, we can exercise him beforehand, take off a lot of excess energy. That'll make it easier for him to succeed. I would recommend getting a spiral notebook or an assignment notebook and then do a journal of all the exercise that he gets. So write down, maybe we did 30 fetches in the morning, 25 midday, and then 50 in the evening, and then that day he got a C+. Next day we play around, we add more repetitions of those. Maybe we get a B. Keep on playing around with those until we find a combination that has desire, it gives us the behavior that we want, and then eventually we get to the point where we can help him. The exercise is not going to fix his behavior, but it's going to make it easier for us to fix his behavior. Let me see. Am I forgetting anything? I'm probably forgetting a lot of things.
You said you were going to talk about the warning signs of the.
Oh, I think I went over those already, right? The staring, the licking. Yeah, those are the warning signs.
Okay.
Get in a habit. Try to pet under the chin. We want to avoid patting on top of the head, especially when we're rewarding him for desired actions and behaviors. Remember, the leash is okay to be. He can be on the leash dragging around as long as he's supervised. If he's not supervised, take it off. We're doing the door exercise. Make sure we take it off as well, unless you're worried about him door dashing or something like that. Trying to think what else, buddy. Yes, because we might also want to think about limiting his access to the entire house, just temporarily, helping him feel more comfortable about different things. Now, I would like to do some class or counter conditioning because he barks anytime anybody passes the house. He hears sounds outside the house. We can do that, but he's not ready for that. I can't really even touch him at this point because he's so insecure and so worked up. We're going to have to build up his confidence and help him feel more relaxed. Maybe we might need to do a follow-up session where we work on those sort of things or some leash training and things like that. But really try to put an emphasis, get a chucker, and that's something I wanted to go over, the fetch. So a lot of people, they steal the ball, they pull the ball away from the dog. So, and the guardians also have had to snatch him to put him in the kennel or pull him out from under the couch. So when you start going through, as I talked about earlier, you're recreating the ritual of leaving. If he goes under the couch, then sit down in the chair here and start dropping treats in front of the couch. And when he comes out to get them, maybe say a word that means come out of the couch. So again, you can create a command word. At first you want to drop them like right in front of the couch, then a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit, and eventually you're throwing them way on the other side of the room, so he has to come way out of the couch to prevent him from going back underneath there again. For fetch, if we try to pull the item out of his mouth, that creates makes it a higher value item. So when he has a toy that he is allowed to have, I want to go up, and he's got it in his mouth, not holding it, but he's got it in his mouth. I'm going to take one of these high value Tricky Trainer treats. Here, buddy. And we're going to hold it in front of his mouth. He's going to try to take it with the ball in his mouth or whatever it is. Wait for him to drop it. As soon as he drops it, pop it in his mouth and say the word drop. And then don't go for the item. So every time you see him have something in his mouth, go get a treat, put it in front of his mouth, and teach him to drop with low value items, items he's allowed to have at any point. Eventually you get to the point where you say drop it, he'll just spit it out of his mouth gleefully because that means he's going to get a treat. Now, I can teach you how to say, well, I'll go through it right now. When I'm teaching a dog to fetch, once it knows how to fetch and it knows how to drop, I say fetch 3 times. I have the ball. I say fetch as I throw it. When the dog goes over, when it picks the ball up with its mouth, I say fetch at the same second it picks it up. And then when the dog comes over to me, I have a treat. I'm holding the treat out. Now, when the dog comes over, as soon as it drops it, I pop the treat in its mouth and I say the word fetch. So first we have to shape and teach it to drop independently of fetch. Once it has that skill set, then we hold the treat over, but instead of saying drop, we're saying fetch because that's the third part of fetch. Now, at first we'll do the treat all the time, but eventually we're going to do the treat maybe every other time. Once he's got the skill set down, he's doing really well. Remember, when we're using treats is a good thing, but we don't want to use them all the time. We use them all the time at first, but then after he knows the skill, then we go to every other time, then every third time, every fourth time. The most effective way to treat a dog is inconsistently so they don't know when the treat is actually coming. Remember, always give the treat first, and they should hear the command word right after the treat goes in their mouth. Remember to say just the command word and not good boy sit or good dog sit or Rocco sit. Just sit. Just come. The fewer words we use, the easier it is for the dogs to understand. I love the fact that he's resting his chin on me. He still is not a fan of me because I'm an outsider. But the more that we do these experiences where people come in and drop treats and they don't pet him and try to interact with him, and again, tell your guests to be wary of eye contact. He's very eye contact reactive. But eventually he'll start to have a positive association when people come by. And we want to have this anxiety and this stress. But I mean, his reaction is not aggression. It's just, he's just stressed out and he thinks that he needs to help his humans by doing protection jobs for them. We don't need you to be a protective dog. We just need you to be our fun dog.